Hello, everyone. This is our sixth planetary synthesis of 2017. It is December 21st, 2017. We are taking advantage of this 1221 energy in order to do this last planetary synthesis. The collective consciousness of the children have a lot to share and some controversial information, not controversial to some on the planet, but other people who may come in and watch the recording, and even among some of the people who've been following the ascension path might find some of this interesting as well. So let's get started. So let's take a moment here, and I'm going to invite in, activate Roganadra and Minerva right away. To keep the balance of polarities, to bring in multidimensional awareness through that Roganadra is able to do, or assist us in doing. Minerva, who works with the 12th dimensional nature of spiral time and brings in the Christ Sophia consciousness. In the name of the I Am, I call forth every aspect of my soul being. Invite all of you to do the same. From the macrocosmic to the microcosmic levels, we decree ourselves to be soul beings on a mission on planet Earth to restore the balance of polarities, to align to the law of one, and to assist in steering a path for humanity and eventually the entire universe in which we can create as omniverse beings. Take a moment and ground to the crystalline core of the earth from your tailbone. Connect to the multidimensional earth grid. Okay, so let's keep going here. So for today's session, some of the things we're going to talk about is the 0-point field, transmission to humanity through the ionosphere. This is what Sammie wanted to do. We talk about the power of the 8 as an exponential number, and the year of 2018 as an 8 year, as Sammie's been describing, and other people are becoming aware of the 8 and the 888 portals. We're going to talk about the incomplete fruit of life that we've actually been operating from, and how that's impacted our physical bodies and the reality that we've been co-creating. The collective consciousness of the children and Sammie really want us to stay the course of this ascension path, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, because even though we have broken through, there is still a lot. I don't want to say work, but we can go further. So we'll talk about that a little bit, and then do an energetic process of birthing the new human and anchoring that true flower of life, and what Lisa Renee calls the 12 tree grid that we were really originally supposed to be manifesting our bodies from. So we're going to talk a little bit about the vector equilibrium as the 0-point field. This is a geometry that represents, it's called the cuboctahedron. You can look it up as the cuboctahedron. Buckminster Fuller called it the vector equilibrium. So this is the vector equilibrium. It's the zero reference of the energetic mathematics. So the center line here that we see, imagine that center line in there is like horizontal and going right through so that it becomes more of a three-dimensional image. So you can imagine yourself being encased in this vector equilibrium as the 0-point field. And Buckminster Fuller called it the 0-point field because all the vectors balance out into neutrality. And he said that it's the nearest approach we will ever know to eternity and God, the zero phase of conceptual integrity, where positive and negative and the asymmetries are balanced out. So this is what Sammie operates from, where the masculine and the feminine are balanced out, the above and the below. It's the true 0-point field. And there's a blog on our website about that if you want to get further information about it. But this is what we're going to be operating from. If you all want to activate the vector equilibrium around you as if it's surrounding your body and that you're in the center of it. Because I want us to receive the information from a neutral state so that we can get the fullness of the information that Sammie and the kids want to share. So Sammie asked that we put the Earth in the vector equilibrium to mass consciousness, to balance out the polarities as best possible. Then she wanted us to, now from that vector equilibrium, like all the geometries that we know can be collapsed from that vector equilibrium. So she asked that we connect to the dodecahedron from the vector equilibrium. As you could see, we put the Earth inside that. She said, now expand that to encompass the ionosphere, which is like the highest point of the Earth's atmosphere. It's from the ionosphere and the electrical charges and currents, well, the electromagnetic charges and currents, that we have the ability to actually affect thought and emotions on the planet. So Sammie is saying we're going to embed this information into the unconscious, the subconscious realms. Talk about a little bit about the power of the 8. So if you've joined us before, we've talked about the number 2 as a from the state of formlessness arose what we called prime creator, that represented by the 2, and that when the 2 joined together, it formed a three of them, and that forms the triangle and the triad. So the number 3 is associated with the monad, and the 2 is prime creator. And I'm not normally a numerologist, but this is the way the information has been coming to me. And that whole story of the prime creator and the monad came from a little boy on the planet who's about 3 or 4 years old. I'm just going to call him Elliot. That's not his real name, but I'm going to call him Elliot. He kind of downloaded me with that information and that awareness. So if we look at the 8 from the perspective of prime creator, the 2 and the monad, the 8 can be looked at as coming from 2 to the 3rd power. So 3 is the exponent, and 2 multiplied by itself 3 times. And the other interesting aspect is that 9, the next number, is also a power number of 3, the monad, to the power of prime creator. Now, even though we're looking at these numbers kind of, what we might think as separately, we're looking at the aspects of the 2 and aspects of the 3 and where they came from. In this reality, our reality of matrices and geometry, it's that 3, that monad, that's embedded with prime creator in it. That's where the balance of the father and the mother comes from. It's literally embedded in that monad, the 3. So in the fall of consciousness, one of the things that we'll talk a little bit more about later is that somehow the 2 and the 3 were separated, which allowed for a harsh duality to now exist. And so we see polarity, kind of like, if we want to think about it as the 2, and we're always trying to get to that 3 where it's balanced. But it's almost like we've been in conflict with these 2 aspects. And from the way it's been described, it's been from that division, let's say, of the prime creator out of that monad. So this is what's been returned to us this in 2017. And so now we have the opportunity next year and going forward is to exponentially expand. So exponentials, from the definition of dictionary.com, as you've probably read, is the growth of a system is proportional to the amount already present. So for today's, what we're going to focus on is that in everyday speech, the exponential growth means runaway expansion, where it's just like a flourishing that bursts open. And if we look at the egg of life, we see something similar. So for a moment, let's look at the zygote, the fertilized egg, right? The 1 splits into 2. The 2 splits into 4. The 4, then when it splits again, when those 4 cells, it becomes 8. And interesting that it's those 8 cells that remain unchanged and virtually immortal in our perineum root chakra area. And if we look at this egg of life there, you see 7 spheres there, but there's actually 8 because one of them is behind it. So if you look at those top 4 spheres and think of it like a square run on top, and then when it divided again, there's 4 more underneath there, creating 8 in it, and it looks more like a cube than that 2-dimensional image. And so from those 8 cells, then it takes off. That's exponential, when it just takes off and starts rapidly dividing and then starts to differentiate and creates the human body, creates the different organs. So that's what Sammie is saying. The 8, the power of the 8 is the potential for exponential expansion starting in 2018. The egg of life also comes out of the fruit of life. This is the fruit of life that people are familiar with if we follow that geometry, but this is actually an incomplete flower of life that it comes out of. And we're going to be in the energy work. I'm going to show you what the expanded fruit of life should have looked like. So if you look in that center, again, you see that egg of life pattern in there. So that egg of life pattern has to still be there. It's this incomplete fruit of life that has enabled us to function out of balance, causing disease states, allowed for reversal codes to be in our physical bodies. And so part of what Sammie and the kids have been saying is when they say we need to keep going past this, part of it is that a lot of these fear-based programs, scripts, beliefs, it's actually embedded right into our flesh and has been passed down from generation to generation. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but it's very much in our flesh. And for us to go beyond what we have known, we need to keep breaking down, recognizing these patterns that are in our flesh and continuing to break it down and clear it out. Okay, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. One of the ways that some of you might follow energetic synthesis, the way she sees it, rather than the flower of life, is the 12-tree grid of life. Now, these spheres that you see, they're not chakras. They're part of the tree of life. We have been operating on what she calls the 10 grid, the 10-tree grid of the 10-tree grid tree of life, and we're supposed to operate on the 12-tree grid. So again, these are not chakras; they're spheres that engages the light codes, works with our DNA, and manifests a body that was supposed to be know our multidimensional aspect of ourself and connected to God and original source light and as a completely open system where we're continuously exchanging information. She has something called the Heros Gamos, which I'll mention a little bit more later if you're interested in learning more and going through that process. I have been going through that process a little bit more actively now. In the past week, I felt like that's what I needed to do. But anyway, that's another perspective, kind of a similar message that she's talking about, similar to what Sammie has been showing me. I only came across energetic synthesis like in January this year. But for the last 2 years or so, Sammie's been showing me images of like a flower of life and this fruit of life that looked kind of different than what we had known. I thought it was the new flower of life that was coming in, but it really was meant to be the original flower of life that we were supposed to be operating from. So 2018, the year of the 8, the year of the 8, it's again potential for a runaway expansion on the planet. Sammie is saying there's a potential for about 25 to 30% of the human population to wake up. And so now that waking up, from what she's saying, is an awareness. It's more of an awareness of what has not been true, of what's been hidden. It's kind of come about more of an inner knowing. I mean, there's a lot of people already that kind of are feeling that, but this sense that they're going to come to a much more rapid understanding, and then seeking new information to reconcile the conflict that people are going to start to feel within themselves. So the collective conscious of the children, they're saying that they're already started implanting into our quantum field the new belief system, the structure for a love-based economies, education, you know, all of it. Our monetary system is going to start to unravel, and it might get turbulent, you know, at times. But she's calling on the starseeds and the indigos who agreed to now step into their roles as the way showers, to stay centered and continue our own work of clearing the body temple of the old matrices and reversal codes that were planted right into our physical bodies. So let me see if I can, I don't know if I can draw or not. Okay, now it's gonna let me draw. So this graph here over on this side, when we talk about exponential growth, it's like it can go from, let's say, a slow start and then it just takes off. So that's what we mean by exponential. So you're saying we're about here where where we've crossed the threshold, but now the exponential expansion is really a real potential, potential in becoming a reality. And I'm going to draw this other one on the other side because in this world of polarity that we exist in, there's a balance on the other side. So just to balance it out, I drew this other one. In mathematics, this is called a hyperbole, where it's the two sides, but that's a whole other story. So I'm going to draw in the 12, 21 here. And the intention, again, is to stay balanced within this polarity system. And polarity, we've experienced it as kind of a negative, but we're talking about polarity in the sense of, in this reality of where we exist with matrices, it's the polarized forces, the electromagnetics, that holds atoms together, and so it holds the physical together, and that's all really it was meant to be. We've taken it, you know, to the extreme where then we allowed it to embed into our thought patterns and our philosophies, but it really it's a very neutral perspective of polarity. It's just the forces that keep the atoms together. So it's the 1221, and I've been asked to draw this symbol, which is called the triple fire serpent, to hold that together. The triple fire serpent is actually a Pleiadian master symbol that I got attuned to by a Pleiadian dragon a few years ago. So that's that. One point here about next year. One of the things with the collective conscious of the children coming in as what looks like the original human oversoul matrix, and that each of these individuated, what we consider to be our individuated souls, comes really from that one massive soul. It's one soul. And there at that level, you know that you're part of a collective. It becomes intrinsic. And so what they've been showing me is that there's going to be this natural kind of push and pull, and this feeling that unless we act as a collective, some of these things, the challenges, we're not going to be able to as effectively get over them unless we start acting as a collective. And Sammie's saying right now that dodecahedron even, which is a 12-sided polygon, right? It has like 12 of these pentagon shapes that makes up the dodecahedron. It's almost like, she's saying, like, that's almost like regions of the earth that you can come together as a collective, as a mini collective or a sub-collective. But we're really going to be challenged to start acting as a collective. Okay, yeah. Let's go to the next slide here. So, staying the course. One of the things that's happened when we've been now existing in, let's say, a limited reality, or let's say the false matrix. Okay, so it's almost like we've existed in this box, let's say, and this is the false matrix. And it's cleverly a multidimensional matrix. So within that false matrix, let's say, we've been existing in even a smaller box. So let's say that's 3D reality, where we've been held, and then again, I don't want to use the language of like I'm blaming somebody else. We've existed in this false matrix, and then within that false matrix, there was an even smaller box that we have been creating from. So now that box is multidimensional spaces, okay? And so when we've gone through these cycles where we think we're expanding and breaking out of consciousness, we were only going still within this false matrix. And so when people have been accessing, like, let's say, even the 9th dimension within that box, it feels like you're really expanding. But there's really more out here, because the system connected to original source is an open system. It's open in all directions. There is no box. There's only a matrix from which we're creating from, but we're aware of what we're co-creating within that matrix. So we've been holding ourselves in a smaller box than what this false matrix is been showing us. And so this is what happened to Atlantis. They expanded out, but they were only still within this false matrix, right? And so when we think of these civilizations of the past, that, it was so much better than they had all this technology, or Lemuria, yes, they had ancient wisdom and knowledge of operating in multidimensional reality, but still it was within a certain framework and a box. And so now we have to keep going, and we have to keep breaking down the fear programs and the hive mind thinking that we've been in. And so hive mind thinking and trap doors are like, and I catch myself, and I still do it. It's things like, so for me, an example would be when, and I still do it, I'm trying to motivate my kids to let's say do something, but I use guilt, I'll say something like, you know, it's been hard to get Sammie in the bath sometimes, you know, and it could be midnight, you know. But, and so I'll say things like, come on, Sam, help your parents out. Come on, don't you want to help us out? Come on, just do this. Let's do it now, you know, at 5 o'clock instead of at, you know, 10 o'clock at night. So that's the program of like guilt. So these programs of guilt, shame, fear, where we're trying to motivate with fear-based or punishment kind of thing. It's very subtle, and we're in it, and that's kind of like the hive mind thinking. You think you're going around really in the same circle. And I've experienced it myself. Even like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was listening to someone's meditation that someone had sent me, and I kept feeling like I was being pulled, like pulled. And I kept feeling like they're trying to pull me back into an old timeline because they want to keep you in this box, because there's been a system of survival that's been maintained in this box because they don't know any better. There are beings in this universe that have never known original source light, because this is the only place they've existed. They don't know anything else, and they're attracted to the humans and our DNA, because within our DNA is encoded the law of one, and this connection to God, the original source God. And so we've been like their light, not knowing that if you just open the door completely and you go, you know, and you just open it all up, it's right there for you. There's no agenda. There's no agenda with that. There's no hidden agendas. So when Sammie is saying we have to keep going, this is what she means. We're still going to need to do some work, even as we step up to be the star seeds and the way showers that keep cleaning our own house within. And so that's why I was motivated to keep going with some of the work that Lisa Renee has been putting out, or she's put that out, you know, a few years ago. So again, if that's what you're drawn to, you know, and there might be other people doing similar kinds of things, but if you go on her website, at least they have literally lists of like fear-based programs, and some of it might be uncomfortable to really look at, but I mean, I notice it within myself. I see it on even my very organs. You know, the other day I could see the word guilt written on my liver. You know, it was like blaring. So it's like literally planted right in my liver, or shame on my pancreas, you know, where you're seeing the results of having operated from a incomplete fruit of life and incomplete flower of life. So one of the things that I want to mention here is about, that Sammie is talking about, is the endocannabinoid system. So we have a central nervous system, but we were also supposed to have a fully functioning endocannabinoid system. And that word looks like cannabis because yes, it refers to some of the natural chemicals that are in cannabis hemp plants that promote cell-to-cell communication. We have an endocannabinoid system within our body. We were meant to also generate and produce these cannabinoids in our own body. One of the ones that scientists have found, is anandamide. And what they're finding is that these molecules actually work with our hormones, and they are our natural body's communication system to tell, you know, maybe your immune system, okay, you've been putting out enough of those phagocytes or those T cells, it's time to stop now. Okay, that's enough. Don't produce anymore. You've done your job, and now you have to stop. So we see in our bodies where inflammation, right? That immune response is continuously on all the time because we've been operating where when fear is the base system of your reality and survival, then it's out of balance. The body doesn't know when to stop. We have to go get scanned or an X-ray to find disease in your body. I mean, so the endocannabinoid system is the intelligence, the sentience of our physical bodies, and when that comes online and connected to our central nervous system and our endocrine system, we're going to be true vessels of God, the avatar. So that's one thing they wanted me to mention is, yes, we the avatar consciousness has opened up. We're bridging now higher aspects of our being, which is from really the original human oversoul that this collective consciousness of the children is also part of. We are streaming that in. We're becoming the avatar, but we have to become one with a monad. And that means, again, clearing out, becoming aware of our own hive mind thinking at times, so that we can really develop a whole new trajectory for the planet and eventually our universe that has been ascending as well. Okay, so I'm going to, we can prepare here, and just take a moment and ground again. Come back to center, bringing in that vector equilibrium as the 0 point field. Not all the information that I shared that may have been uncomfortable. Let's just be neutral about it for this energy process and reaffirm our commitment to why we're here on the planet, what we came to share, what we came to be, what we came to assist with. So that's the most important part, is to stay aligned with our soul agreement. And if it feels right to you, also to commit to continue the expansion of our consciousness, both through the macrocosmic levels and the microcosmic levels. Inviting in Roganadra and Minerva. And I've put that, even that fruit of life, the incomplete fruit of life, right into this vector equilibrium. Let's dissolve that in this balancing field, this geometry of love that comes from Source. clear deep layers through our multidimensional layers of our being. The astral body, including the mental and emotional projections. Even the astral realms have been held within a limited matrix, and has been recycling the same mental and emotional projections. So to clear even the interdimensional spaces of that, of the astral body. Open and clear the spirit, etheric, and celestial bodies. From all time and spaces that we've existed in. Bridging and reinfusing spirit into our soul matrix. Clearing the mental and emotional bodies is connected to our physical bodies, just like right outside of us in our aura. It's clear. This is one of Sammie's symbols. Clear the multidimensional, interdimensional spaces. Go through physical body systems and call forth all miasma. Miasma is oppressive energy. All matrices, miasma that has been based on the false matrix and the incomplete fruit of life. I'm going to call it, ask it to all come forward from the skeletal system. And I'm going to use these 6 Pleiadian dragon energies to clear that. From our muscular system, same thing, calling forth all unnatural, inorganic miasma matrices in our muscular system. From our endocrine system, the integumentary system, which is like our skin, the nervous system, do one sweep with Sammie's dismantling matrix. The lymphatic, the cardiovascular system. the lymphatic and immunological system, the bone marrow. Sammie's saying, take some deep breaths. Digestive system. Bring in this salamander energy. Clear the alimentary system. It's the esophagus, from the mouth esophagus all the way through the intestines, the stomach, the intestines, the colon. The urinary system, the kidneys, the reproductive system, just clearing the, taking a moment to clear the uterus and the fallopian tubes and the ovaries from the female, the cervix. The male reproductive system. Going to clear the interdimensional spaces of the soul fragments that we may have lost connection with. And again, this is an unnatural state to have soul fragments. Calling in all soul fragments from the multidimensional realms, calling in Denadra, Cloadendra from what I call the 18th and 19th morphic fields, to clear. You may feel it going through your body and the triads of your soul matrix. In that pelvic area, open the pelvic area. Which encompasses the lower three chakras. Yeah, gas wanting to come up, be released, as a release. Clearing the lower dantian, the center point that's kind of behind the navel, which is where we can make a connection to our soul matrix. That really, there's a lot of clearing that needs to take place there. It's different than our sacral chakra. So clearing that space to hold the soul matrix that is now fully coming online. Okay. Again, calling forward the original human oversoul spirit, where spirit and soul are really one. That center space where around the heart area is the womb of creation that sent forth the Adam Kadmon seed, imprinted with the full multidimensional nature of the human avatar as an expression of the monad. I'm going to call on the chord that is right for your soul expression from that great oversoul. And we're going to be birthing that through the atomic structure. This is the original fruit of life. This is the expanded fruit of life. Just like a floppy disk being inserted right through your being. And if you can actually see even the human body in this, this was kind of shown to me a couple of years ago, where you can look at the human body as the head here and arms there. These would be the legs coming out kind of, and still this connection, this energetic connection to the earth. When I was shown that, I found that I could activate the fruit of life with my hands. So this is the connection to soul matrix connected to Earth star below us, or the Earth actually, the center of the Earth, the multidimensional Earth. Because then we get the codes to manifest our bodies in union with Gaia. Abacus from Sammie activates the original flower of life. And again, engaging and activating what's comfortable for your physical being right now. So I encourage you to perhaps do this process again, maybe in a few months. Oops. Engaging the rainbow meridian system from Sammie Roganadra, putting this in place. That we are literally receiving information from all around us, from the very quantum field that we exist in. So this is what Sammie had shown me to rebirth ourselves. So imagine that we're accessing the quantum realms, or even the realms of what you might consider the black liquid light. So the neutron with that vector equilibrium call forth your soul, the soul lineage from this collective consciousness of the children. Be a little different for each one of us because we each have a unique individual signature depending on our soul agreement and the gift that we came to deliver. So focusing on that neutron, connecting to the soul lineage and imprinting the neutron with your unique soul signature, soul matrix signature. And being expressed as the physical body, giving the instructions to the proton. And now Minerva is bringing us back to the time when we're, let's say, in the womb, expressed through the proton. The field of electrons. I was guided by another one of our kids who works with the black liquid light and the realms of the quantum field. He's a master of the quantum field. I'm going to call him Nolan for confidentiality. That's not his real name, but the realm of leptons, that is the electrons, where the electrons come from. Scientists, I think, recognize 6. He says there's 7, so those little squigglies are different aspects of the leptons. So Nolan is bringing forward his consciousness to bridge with this quantum field. And express. Going right into the egg of life, your personal egg of life. Those 8 original cells. And the intention of accessing all the DNA and RNA material in your egg of life, in the nucleus of the cells, and also within the mitochondrial DNA, because we also have DNA in the mitochondria. Again, accessing the original divine blueprint that came with the original human matrix. Imprinting that. Oh, and I have to put a note for myself. So this is some of the work we've done before, connecting to the new neurology. Sammie has been working on her endocannabinoid system and learning to adjust her frequency through her cellular body. So she's going to connect with us through her endocannabinoid system. So just allow this connection. Starting a bridge with our nervous system along the spinal column with the endocannabinoid system. So this is just the beginning. Waiting for Sammie to tell me to keep going. Again, right in the head, connecting with the endocrine system in our brain, connecting to the new alpha and omega cycle, making adjustments to our adrenal system. So the new fruit, or the fruit of life that we just engaged a few slides back, is making deeper adjustments. And again, this is a process. It's not all going to happen overnight. And part of what we're doing for the planet and as humanity is we're bringing it in, and how it all plays out in our individual lives in our lifetime is yet to see, but we're bringing it down into the earth. This is what I call the phoenix rising. So just burn away all that you can bring to the surface, that you can comfortably bring to the surface that you no longer need. And from the ashes of what we've burned out, we are rising again. We are rising out of what no longer resonates for us, what no longer resonates with the law of one, all that does not resonate with the original human oversoul matrix. Burn that out in as many layers of your physical body as you can. This is Archangel Jezebel, and her name on purpose looks like the word Jezebel. She's literally transmuting the misogynistic belief that the feminine is bad, because our very own mothers are, and from the womb of creation is the feminine aspect. God loves the human form. We were created in love from the field of the formless one. where all potentials and possibilities exist. And take a moment to allow this energy even to penetrate right into your egg of life, right into your mitochondria, the mitochondrial DNA, because our mitochondrial DNA is actually passed on from mother to daughter. And I looked this up because it was brought to my awareness by one of the kids of the collective consciousness. I'll call her Lila. That when the mitochondria keeps the cell alive, so the sperm has mitochondrial DNA, and so does the egg. And when the egg is fertilized by the sperm, the mitochondria of the sperm actually dissolves, and we're left with the mitochondrial DNA of the mother, and that's passed on from mother to daughter. So let's transmute that right here, right now. This is Archangel Neathalus. God flourishes. That's what we talked about earlier on, the exponential. From the 8, there's exponential explosions. And when God flourishes, all is swept up with it. And we take every bit of us that's divine with us in this process of flourishing. We flourish together, we flourish in unity consciousness, in the field of unity intelligence, from the macrocosmic to the microcosmic levels, from the beginning and the end. We flourish in oneness, and this is what we're bringing. No more secrets and no more lies. So breathe that in also into your egg of life. If Archangel Jezebel holds a mother principle, Archangel Neathalus holds a father principle. And again, it's not as in two different entities, but as one. This is Kaya, a multidimensional earth dragon. We're going to allow her to imprint and burn in the work that we just did right into our egg of life, right into our entire field of being, the physical body, as well as every multidimensional layer that we exist in that makes up our total beingness, our total consciousness. Allow Kaya to etch this in to our full beingness. This is that Iwa Nuwa, the spirit in matter. But let's reverse it for a minute. And from our Earth star, bring it up. So it's like saying that we're matter in spirit. So from the Earth star, bring this symbol up right through you, encompassing your entire being. Find that stability. Take a moment and let this symbol also right into that lower dantian we talked about earlier in the pelvic area. Let it spread right through the entire pelvis area, encompassing the lower three chakras. Let spirit burn away the false ego matrix that has been residing in those lower three chakras, keeping us vibrating in those lower frequencies. Allow it to burn away and be the matter in spirit, the matter of spirit, having an experience in a human form, in a human vessel that is divine. I'm going to bring balance here for a second. It's a 5-pointed star. Starry icosahedron is activating around us. The Sammie and collective consciousness of the children. We're holding this, stabilizing this field. This is deep work. Bring that ego matrix, Sammie's saying now, from what we might call the negative ego of the lodged in the solar plexus. Dissolve that and bring that ego matrix to about the throat chakra. Ego identity as a being of the monad. Surrender the physical vessel, surrender the ego to the monad as an expression of the monad. And as we do this, you can literally start to feel behind your back, like around that where the 8th chakra would be, right behind the thymus area. It's like wings growing out, having the wings returned to us. Those were clipped in the false matrix and the negative ego. Thalia, the primordial dragon of our universe. Let that imprint through our being as well. Acknowledge ourselves to be a part of this universe, in balance with this universe and the universal laws that govern it. Oops. This is an envision a future. This is a symbol that the kids showed me a few weeks ago. So from your third eye, imagine this symbol. It's going to go out as far into the future as you can see for humanity. And it loops back down and comes back and center. It goes through throat chakra and it goes through the heart. And it's grounded, right? Connect to the multidimensional earth. So what is the future? Envision where we get past this phase, that we get past this dismantling phase with grace and ease. That we will achieve peace. We are achieving peace for future generations to come. Where we've gotten past diseased states, where we're vibrating as multidimensional human vessels in form. There's no more disease. There's no more need for even genetic, let's say genetic errors that have come about. And the people ask, well, then what would we do? Because we've made a life or an existence as if correcting making our lives comfortable and bringing technology in to make our lives comfortable and connect and correct genetic mutations is the way to go. And that's true to a point where we're in a phase where yes, technology can make our lives more comfortable with a sense of ease. But I want to plant in the belief and the knowing that it has to be for everyone, that it's not just for the few, that there's no need for people to be hungry. There's no need for people to be living without power to stay warm or to have a safe place to sleep. Those basic necessities are easily accessible, readily accessible. And so in the future, down the road, what this collective consciousness sees as a potential of beings where we are living in an omniverse where literally we can travel between universes as human vessels, not just traveling galaxies or other planets. I mean, we're talking about the omniverse, where you can create your vessel of your matrix and create different timelines and trajectories, vectors, to be in other places, to express as a dimensional aspect of your consciousness and be in different locations. This is the future when we achieve peace on earth. This is what we're striving towards. And so when we are seduced by ideas of technology taking care of it all, or having robots or artificial intelligence technologies, I mean, those are trying to mimic a possibility, but it's really not the true matrix that we really exist in. So envision this future getting past these bumpy roads of a fear-based economic system, where a love-based economic system is established, where unity intelligence is the motivating factor. It is a future where no more disease exists, where we choose our bodies and we choose when we want to, are ready to leave the body. This is where we're headed. So let's bring that into the now and spread it out to the collective consciousness of humanity through the multidimensional earth grid, through the ionosphere of the planet, and balancing it all with what I call this the Dyna Shield, which is from the kids. The law of one, in alignment with the liquid violet flame, connecting all access points, the vertical, the horizontal channels, the diagonal channels, every aspect of our being, bringing it into coherence, balance, and alignment. In the name of the I Am, and in alignment with the law of one, we decree this session to be sealed and closed. We offer this up to all who wish to receive the information with love and gratitude and neutrality. So it is.